Hello and welcome back to Academy here. It is the last day of the regular season here. We are almost finished. We have 2 games left to play, but thankfully, Mr. Cage in the Rage, this next one is a fun one. We actually have big stakes despite no tiebreakers left available in any of these scenarios. We actually are going to have the final bout, or the first bout actually, between TL and C9A, our 2 top teams, determine which team stays on top. Team Liquid are losing their undefeated record up against 100 Thieves, meaning they do have to play Cloud9 for the rights to first place.
And I mean, this is going to be a real clash of the titans here because both teams suffered losses last week. Both teams are looking incredibly strong this season, and both teams play a relatively similar style of playing for the late game.
All right, we'll see which late game it looks better here, but both teams have been looking real good. We'll start on the Cloud9 side because they got their groove back. And by groove, I mean King. This guy is finally back in North America, playing in Academy again, and he's still tearing it up just like he was in spring of 2020.
Honestly, the only matchup that I regret not seeing so far this season, and maybe we'll get to see it postseason, is the King versus Luger matchup, because both of them play a very similar champion pool and both play very dominantly. But in today's matchup, I feel like King is going to have a pretty even opponent in Yan, but we'll need to see exactly what the drafts look like and exactly how he decides to play, because if he's enabled by his team, whether that's an engaged support or an engaged jungler, I really think that Cloud9 Academy knows how to treat their AD carry.
Yeah, and it's obviously a very different Cloud9 Academy than the back-to-back champions from last year. As oh my goodness, that kid was so sick. As Cloud9 just keep turning it back around. I mean, this is like a whole new team, right? We've got 2 standout Oceanic players, right? Isles, the rookie of the year for the OPL last year, and Schoenfei, who has actually been in North America and around the world for a while, playing in different teams, trying to kind of get his way onto different rosters and just kind of compete wherever he can find competition. It's the kind of player he is. Landing on Cloud9 Academy is a great home for him, especially alongside his countryman King, but also like they're friends. Like these 2 have known each other for a very long time. They've wanted to compete together as kind of a thing they wanted to do. They always talk about like wanting to go to Worlds and look good together, and they potentially could do that depending on how their future looks like if they're able to, play up into maybe an LCS team, because they're both very talented players. On the other side, though, can't really talk about Academy this year without talking about the once undefeated Team Liquid Academy. This team looked actually unstoppable at points.
Honestly, it's just so many things that work out for Team Liquid Academy, especially in this meta. Our Mao has been on fire. Hayri is unquestionably one of the best mids in Academy, and definitely a lot of support coming in from the bot lane as well. There's no single player that truly stands above. It's the combination that makes them greater than the sum of their parts, and honestly harkens a lot back to the domination we've seen from even Cloud9 Academy when they were at their last year's strong point.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking better. Cloud9 Academy lost games.
Yeah,
in both of their splits. TL Academy haven't done a whole lot of losing. 1 loss only on the record. Other than that, been looking real good. Of course, they will have to play C9 for the rights to first place because they didn't go undefeated, but really haven't put much out of line at all here. Whole squad looking on point. They've got a good mix of veterans and OCE talent. Plus, Yeon, who's kind of a newer player, was at Scouting Grounds last year in 2020. And also have it's kind of fun, like the imports they brought, both Ayla and Harry, not only just talented players in their own right, but bringing in an Oceanic coach as well in Spawn, who conveniently has also coached and played with these players before, which was kind of a nice thing to port. So it does feel like Team Liquid Academy like very quickly figured out how they wanted to play, how to get on the same page, and it really hasn't been many missteps from that point, using the strong talent that already existed in the ecosystem, plus importing some and adding some as well. It's so funny, every time we talk about Armeo, who of course was known as Greg, but now Armeo, had some LCS games in the Lock-in tournament, looked pretty good alongside Team Liquid's main squad. Has looked even better in Academy. He's won a championship on TSM Academy before. This is a player that has had like lots of different opportunities in the spotlight in Academy and LCS, and there was a period where in the LCS he just didn't look all that good on TSM, and looking back, it's not necessarily his fault. He's just kind of put in a position that wasn't all that, like, maybe he wasn't ready for, but he has unwritten all of that narrative, I would say, at this point, both in his LCS games and in his Academy games, because he looks like maybe the best jungler in Academy.
He is just everywhere around the map, honestly. He competes with literally everyone in terms of CS numbers, in terms of KDA, in terms of kill participation. He's always there when he needs to be. He always knows where the enemy jungler is, and I think his play has really facilitated the style that Team Liquid Academy is drawn on, which is not only win in the late game, but also they know how to draw an early game victory as well and twist it into a really dominant victory. Now, I can't talk about Team Liquid Academy without talking about last week and their little hiccup against 100 Thieves, where they were defeated, but a lot of that came down to Ayla being caught out twice in the late game. And I think that, more than anything, should give Cloud9 Academy a little bit of a hint as to what they can do in the late game, where they are strongest, in order to pull this one in their favor.
All right, well, we'll see what happens here, because again, C9 looking different. King is back alongside Isles this time. Copy, definitely a hot prospect from Scouting Ground, so it's nice to see him in the lineup. He was, of course, on the talent machine known as 100 Thieves Next, and he has found his way onto the other talent machine, which is Cloud9 Academy, so kid's trajectory looking pretty good as far as career goes. And then Shern, of course, joining finally, and Darshan actually being maybe one of the big surprises, but a pretty hot pickup, honestly. If you watched Academy last year, he was on Golden Guardians, looking really good. Certainly has, like, not just had all this experience and leadership that you want to guide some of your newer players on these teams, but also just, like, individually played excellently, especially with jungle pressure. So we'll see if Shern does want to be going visit up there, but I think both these junglers have a lot to play for. They're both very good at farming junglers. They're both very proficient gankers. They could go to any of these lanes and try and get them ahead. You do say these teams like to play slow, so we'll see if we are going to get more of a faster paced game, because I think any game plan is good for these teams. That's one of the nice things about, two top high quality teams in Academy, is that you could really get just about anyone trying to carry this game.
I think that there are a lot of options available, but we're going to have to see exactly what happens in this draft.
Alrighty, it's time for the draft, and Azir is banned for the first time today. We've seen him a lot, and not going to be seeing him today. I think, again, given how good TL are in the late game, plus how good Harry has looked, wanting to make sure that one doesn't get through, as Lulu gets banned now. This is some preparation here for Cloud9.
This is actually looking a lot into Jenkins' history. They're probably going to ban the Kennen as well, unless Darshan has a really specific counter matchup to that. Nope, it's going to be the Olaf. Also reasonable against Armao, just making sure that he doesn't get one of the power picks that is known for. And Senna going to be the instant lock into Cloud9 Academy.
I like it. Senna, bit of a slower champion, very powerful, as we heard from Spawn later in the day. Oh, that's not the player Spawn. That might get confusing. Oh, goodness. Nope. Skarner's locked in.
Yep, it's coming back. He lost on it yesterday or last week, and he's looking for round 2. I think that Skarner has been really popping up a lot on 11.3. It hasn't been played professionally as much as it probably should have, but it's definitely one of the power picks that we've seen, especially in the ranks and in solo queue, coming in from a lot of players.
All right, well, these teams very clearly prepared. It is Spawn versus Coach Westrice, both very proficient. As Tom Cantor is going to get banned away, but again, clearly prepared for themselves. TL wanted Skarner again. Shernfire already had the Kindred prepared. They've got the Gragas as well, the extra anti-Kindred ult technology. And they pick Senna because it's Senna. You have to kind of take the champion when it's left available, but going to lose TK here, of course, because they wanted to pick the jungler and their top laner, presumably. Unless it is Isles on support Gragas, that is a possibility. Cloud9 have built in a little bit of extra flexibility to their draft. But Aatrox banned away from Jenkins, and Syndra banned away from Copy. Definitely his most proficient champion.
I also like the takeaway of Gragas from Team Liquid Academy, just because when you have a Kindred, you're so worried about that explosive cask just knocking everyone out of the Lamb's Respite. I also like that they have answers to the Skarner in the Kindred, in that you're going to be able to aggressively go forward, and the Senna, who's going to be able to kind of pull people back with the missed W that she has. All
right, well, Nico already locked in. Again, like, team's very well prepared. Orianna was banned by Cloud9, but Nico is probably a top lane champion. It could be mid lane, of course. It's good in either solo. I don't think it's going anywhere else, although it could be bot lane farming, I guess. I guess I'll reserve my judgment. Let's say that, as King is going to pick up Galio here for Isles, I guess.
I would think of that more as a Jenkins pick. He does love the AP top laners, especially into melee matchups that Darshan loves to play. He loves his carries. Gangplank is available. Maybe they might think about that, just to give the split push option viability. Otherwise, with the Galio and the Gragas lock-in, they might be forcing themselves into something a little more ranged. Let's see what happens. Sion coming out. Okay, we're getting super spicy with Cloud9 Academy, but who could expect anything else from the brilliant Coach Westrice?
All right, so support Gragas, mid lane Galio. and Sion top lane. Sion, again, another one of those champions that's been popping up around the world, but haven't really seen much in NA, certainly not in the LCS. I do like that Academy is kind of showing that they're willing to, branch out and play the different champions. That's just done a mid. And show things off. Now, this one we have actually seen. Tristana mid has been surprisingly popular as a mid lane option.
Especially against something like a Galio that's not going to be able to pressure you out of lane, especially early on. You just have so much poke and harass and mid pressure, especially once Galio starts ganking other lanes. Hayri can just stay in the mid, get that tower down as quickly as possible, immediately jump over, and the late game damage threat speaks for itself, being that it is a marksman in the mid lane.
Yeah, certainly TL have kind of a lot of carry threats. Might be a little bit tricky to start things off, and they don't really have a frontliner. Nico is going to have to do the majority of the zoning / engaging work as far as like straight up 5v5 goes, but again, between thresh hooks and Skarner ultis, they do have plenty of ways to pick people off. C9 though, keeping things very stable. Again, like Senna is just so good if she scales up at all, which is, if the game goes late, you should be pretty happy about. And with Kindred as extra damage, plus a great front line between Gragas, Galio, and Sion, Cloud9 have kind of everything set up nice and simply. So going to be very different styles here between the two teams. It's just fun to see. It's always nice when you get two teams, like a matchup we've been looking forward to, but when they diverge quite heavily in the draft, it'll be fun to see how like they match up these different styles. Because like I said, I feel like these teams can play just about anything. Taking this into this particular match is kind of fun to see.
There's definitely a lot that can happen here. Darshan, I'm very surprised that even though Sion is popping up a lot around the world, it has been this very popular pick on 11.3, it's not a Darshan-style pick. I'm curious what he decides to do with this, whether it's going to be just stay with the team, do for 5v5 big team fights all the time, or if this is going to be some sort of 3-2 situation where you try to back Schernfire up as much as possible and use the engage in order to melt down all the squishies that are on Team Liquid Academy.
Looks like there may have been a pause in this game, but it wasn't too long, so we should be back in as soon as the requisite delay is built up. So we'll be in the game as soon as it's ready. Don't you worry, we're not keeping anything from you, I promise. It is interesting, though, that you mentioned Jenkins and his Nico, because you said like he loves Cannon, which is like something that everyone knows now. Nico like kind of feels like a good analog to Cannon to me. Like champions aren't that different, if I'm being perfectly honest. So yeah. I like that Jenkins is going to something that he's certainly comfortable with playing, but is maybe a little bit more meta, even though we did actually see Cannon today, and it looked really good. So who knows? Maybe everything's good.
I mean, there are definitely a lot of things that can work out. Team Liquid Academy, I mean, the record just kind of shows if they play something, it has a pretty good chance of working out for them. And the Nico, probably no exception. Jenkins using this, I imagine, has a lot of potential, especially with the Skarner plus Nico passive. I think you can use the W to really give a lot of threat, to pretend that Skarner is in the area, maybe force something out of Cloud9 Academy. Maybe the idea is to go for more of the mind game aspect. We don't see it too often in the LCS. Usually most teams can see through that, but you never know.
I like that. It's a fun feint here as the game isn't going to be live. Let's jump in. Cloud9 versus Team Liquid. It is the battle for the top of the standings, as it'll be these two teams' final game of the regular season of Academy. You'll absolutely be seeing them in the Proving Grounds as top 6 teams do qualify, and Ayla is already been impersonated by Jenkins.
Trying to pretend to be Ayla. I like this. Just getting some vision as well. I think this is the main strength of Nico, is always knowing that someone is either not in or in a bush, being able to check that for virtually no cost, and we'll be able to roam around. No real active level 1s, most likely. You do see a ward coming in from Ayla, who's pushing up, and actually, wait, Cloud9 Academy's on the other side of the map. They're starting at blue.
Yeah, actually going to be pushing in a little bit here.
This could be a
Isles has found all the way in. Yeah, Ayla's going to face check there, and Isles going to get in there. Going to force the flash, but the W's already landed. Damage not there, though. Great play, actually.
Week against FlyQuest Academy when they tried this level 1 cheese strat. It did work out for them this time. They did force the Flay and the Flash. So with the Flay leveled up, you at the very least have a bot lane advantage. You don't have to worry about hooks coming in. You don't have to worry about the Lantern being able to pull people out. And Cloud9 Academy, they seem like they're in a much better position than they were last week when it comes to level 1.
Yep, starting off early, nice and aggressive. Kindred's taking away enemy camps, so of course we're going to have to play the Kindred stack minigame at some point. But for now, Shone's going to be happy to take away as much as he can. Is actually going to isolate the jungle as well. Yep, Shone is going to be pushing through. So he's just going to take all these camps, and that is going to basically force Armeo to play vertically on the top side of the map, which isolates Nico and Sion. Not the best news for Darshan, but I think keeping Senna and friends safe may be fine here as well. In fact, Shone also going to be very efficient, clearing all the way through. So I'm curious where he goes after this now that he's hit level 3.
What I'm wondering is the dive going to ever come through against Darshan? Because diving a Sion, not particularly easy, especially when you don't have a lot of hard CC. Yes, Jenkins will have the ability to kind of stun people, but if Armeo decides to just go a little too hard, usually he's going to be the one initiating more often than not, there's a very good chance that anything could turn, and that's one of the advantages of lane Sion more than anything else.
Yeah, gonna know where Skarner is up though, because actually Armeo walked over a wall, so Shenfire is gonna try and surprise him at his own blue buff, and Armeo is just gonna be forced away here. Shern again has the bounty ready to go, 1v1 versus Skarner. Fine if he can keep the range, that's for sure. But Armeo is like fighting here. Both have smite here, so can just be a battle for this. As Jenkins the first one to rotate down. Team Liquid gonna find the counter, and baby, the build-up goes to Shenfire. Oh no.
Okay, well done by Shernfire, able to pick that one up and keep his jungle to himself. So now Skarner being the mark means he has to walk away and will be able to pick up the Rift Scuttler, but not much else on that. You can see that the mark has been applied to the bot side of the map. You have to imagine Shernfire will be there shortly.
Yeah, I mean, this is genius-looking pathing for Shern here, invading, taking control of the right-hand side of the map. Then the mark spawns on the right-hand side, and he steals his own blue buff away. Doesn't have smite, though, so Armeo can kind of book it here and take it out ASAP, but Shern is going to fight for it, you have to imagine, as the Spire will get picked up. But Shernfire already going to go straight in onto him, but Harry and Copy both rotating in. The stun lands in, Kingo rotating up, and that's the signal for Skarner to give up on this Scuttle Crab, unfortunately. That's going to be the mark over. Armeo going to get zoned out there by Copy, and very good team play there for Cloud9, making sure Shernfire can get that mark. Kindred always needs to make sure she can secure her early marks.
And this is the speed that Cloud9 Academy is known for. You saw that this mark spawned on the bot side. What do they do immediately? King and Isles push the bot lane. They're the first ones to rotate. They're already there to support Shernfire when he goes over to that side of the map. Also on the mid side, yes, Harry got a push, but Copy could very quickly follow. Galio does have a reasonably fast wave clear at level 5, so really able to utilize the whole team and make sure this Kindred pick works out. That first mark, very, very important for a Kindred.
I guess the other thing that I accidentally glossed over, because in my head I saw Setter and just assumed Tom Kent was there, is that they have Gragas farming instead, right? It is fasting center still, which I think seems to be the default best center thing, but you can potentially build some AP here as Gragas. I don't think Isles is going to do it. It looks like he's going to go tank, especially with Aftershock being the item, and he'll serve a little bit more like Tom Kent, I guess, in that regard, in this kind of lane setup. But it is fun to think about, we saw this when Senna was kind of lost in this position late last year, if I remember, where you could have stuff like Rumble just farming in the bot lane alongside Senna. So there definitely are options outside of Tom Kent, even though I think Tom Kent is very obviously the most powerful. At least I'm assuming it is because everyone keeps picking it.
It's definitely a lot safer than everything else in terms of killing power. You're always going to find more options in things like the Rumble, like the outside Aatrox that you occasionally see with a Senna. But Tom Kent just allows pro players to really express themselves in terms of staying safe, farming up for the late game, and playing towards their win condition, which is, of course, get Senna as many souls as possible. We heard Spawn from Dignitas talking about it. You just sit there, you farm, you get the souls, you win.
Follow your jungler, get their souls. Actually like it paired with something like Kindred for that reason. As Isles is going to be the one on CSG, and the King's like, ooh, a soul.
Yep, just freebies.
Seems very relaxing as an AD carry play to play Senna. Until you get CC, then it feels like a bad time.
Yeah,
but
until you remember...
Before then?
The PvE, great. The PvP, not good. That's just the marksman experience, as it sometimes is.
Alright, well, Dragon is going to be started up. Mayo on top there with Harry and Ayla. Harry level 6 has a Noon Quiver. That's going to be a shield bow. No one is surprised because shield bow has been the bow of the day. Also just a very good mythic in general, and we've seen a lot of different style of AD champions enabled as a result, from, Yone to Tristana to MF to... I forgot one. We saw it today too. Gangplank. That was the one I was thinking of. You can really do just about anything with the item. So it is a good one as Dragon goes over to TL. Armeo, despite some of the early shenanigans in the jungle there with Schönfire farming up, he has not slowed down. Schön is ahead of him still because he is just hard farming through this jungle after that early bit of pathing kind of around the Skarner. But still feeling good. making sure to not fall too far behind, even though Kindred will hit level 6 first. Armeo's not too far away.
And at the very least, I like the farming coming in, coming from Schönfire. The pathing has been towards the top side. More often than not, I imagine he wants to play for the Rift Herald, which is going to be spawning in about 30 seconds. Once that happens, Darshan has the ability to push. He did just take a back and will have, looks like 2 Ruby Crystals going for the high health build. Probably going for a Turbo Chem tank, I would imagine. And will be able to hopefully push in Jenkins, which will facilitate that topside play.
Taunt never copy is nice. Good amount of damage done to Harry there, but again, Chisana's like not concerned. Just pushes the lane, takes the plates. Up 20 CS. I mean, if this is the value that you get out of Chisana as a counter pick here, maybe start seeing teams pick a lot less Galio blind.
Yeah.
Because even though Galio is really good and has great utility in the mid game, this Chisana is going to be like pretty unchecked come this mid game. It feels like.
And actually, Team Liquid Academy are the ones to start up the Rift Herald after all that. It looked like Cloud9 Academy wanted to do this, but I like the draw coming in from Armeo. You can see the gold lead coming in. The most significant one being in mid lane, where, as we talked about, Copy just picked blind, and Harry's just having a great old time doing that. And the bot lane, not as much as you would expect at this point in the game. King is still keeping up pretty reasonably with Yon.
Yep, just getting them souls. You get gold for that too. Just farm all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Santa teaches you the value of clicking on the orbs on the ground. It's funny, when we first saw Senna, people like just didn't click on the souls sometimes. But now players are much more diligent. I mean, it's one of those. It's such a different style of marksman, right? Especially if you've been a long time, let's call it traditional bot lane player, right? Where you play all of your usual suspects in carry. It is very different. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. And actually do get the CC onto Eon as a result. Unfortunately, they're not going to get a kill. But Ayla's going to maybe make them pay. But popping the mist and just like juking between the thresh hook and then engaging, that was really fun from C9.
That was a fun little flex of the abilities coming out from King and Isles, as we do see the push coming in for Team Liquid Academy. But they got to play careful. You know, you got to Gragas. He's level 6 at this point. Does have the ability to explosive cast onto Yon if he ever gets out of position. Ayla may or may not be able to save him with the Lantern. It looks like there are not control wards quite yet in the inventory, but eventually, you know that play's coming. We've seen it a million times before. We're going to see it a million more times because it is just so darn funny.
Well, Eon is busy with Crescendum, just knocking down waves and champions as quickly as he can. Invade here onto the red buff though, but Schönfire's already found them, and now the Chilling Spite is out. Skarner ready to pull you away. There is the suppression, there's the Galio ulti, but it's nowhere near the Kindred, and that's first blood for Harry as Skarner just finds a freebie, and now Isles over the top finds a double belly bop into the cast, gets 2 center ulti over the top.
King
is going to follow for the trade and does indeed get the one onto Skarner, but here comes Harry back from base, I believe. No, that's the wrong one. It's Jenkins TPing in, disguising as the Tristana, and that's going to be 2 over for Team Liquid, as it looks like a good trade, but not a trade C9A wanted.
See, we were wondering about the engage and the initial picks coming in for the draft for Team Liquid Academy, but as it turns out, you just Skarner ult them, and then you walk back. It's a crazy strategy. You also have the ability to Lantern with Ayla, with the Skarner. It's pretty fun, but it's effective, as you can see against Copy and Darshan. You try to come in, you can see Isles in the back. There's so much damage coming down, but King, he's in position, but he's out of position. It's one of the strangest things that you can be as Senna, and there's nothing you can do once the initial pick is down. Like, the ult is completely gone from Copy, and the rest of the team from Team Liquid Academy can collapse, and it's just well engaged. Cloud9 Academy don't have to disengage to deal with that.
Yeah, all Jenkins on the back end of that play as well. TP's in, disguises the Trist, double roots with the E to set up his own ulti, and finds, instead of a 1-for-1, a 3-for-1 in favor of Team Liquid, which is good enough for a 1,300 gold lead. So a very impactful first TP there out of Jenkins. Love to see it there again. Knows these kind of champions, kind of all the precision and all the little qualities you need to make them work to their maximum potential. And Team Liquid can go back to happily farming here, because again, Tristana is ahead, feeling good. Eon's just fine. Skarner's caught up after Schönfire's early forays into the enemy jungle. even picking up plates as well here in the mid lane, just based on lane pressure all in. In fact, Mayo is going to go ahead and channel that Rift Herald because it is time for Dragon number 2.
And that dragon coming up, Mountain Dragons. So once again, feeling something a little different. Could be the Infernal once again, but for the most part, Harry is going to push down this mid. You could see the disguised Skarner that we were talking about by Jenkins. Going to be just here to add a little pressure. They might even be able to get this turret, considering it's a Tristana.
Well, going to get the Dragon, certainly. We'll see what else is there. Oop, 86 health left after that smite. Slight miscalculation there. It doesn't cost Mayo anything because there is no one anywhere near to try and steal that one, as it is going to be Infernal Rift once again. Mid tower staying up though, so Team Liquid not able to crack that one just yet, but have to feel it's not that far away, and this 2,000 gold lead is going to become a 3,000 gold lead in short order.
You have to feel like Team Liquid Academy, they found their early lead. They found the first fight of the game. They were able to make it really work out for themselves. Armeo especially has just been such an aggressive jungler in this matchup, able to completely out-rotate Churnfire, and just Cloud9 Academy, they better hope that they can rely on their late-game skills in order to bring this one back, because at the moment, this is looking like one of those classic Team Liquid snowballs that we've seen so often this season.
All right, well, we'll check in, but I am curious to see, speaking of scaling, how the center goes, because King actually has an Umbral Glaive, which is perfectly good. Really good item on center. It's kind of everything you want, like 80 lethality and the ability to sweep vision, which when you're a support in this instance is always nice. I wonder if that means King isn't going to be going like Kraken Slayer Rageblade, or if this is just kind of a pit stop. But we'll have to see. Could be more lethality here, which is kind of your older center style builds. But I think if you want to be like more of a real late game deck, you need to go like more of your actual marksman build, right? Which is probably your Kins using this Kraken Slayer. But maybe they feel like with the Kindred they don't need it, because in fact, as I say it and look down, Churnfire is the one already to slay the Krakens.
Not too surprising. You just want to make sure that you have the damage as soon as humanly possible. And against so little of a tank lineup coming in from Team Liquid Academy, yes, Armeo is going to be a little tanky, Ayla going to be a little tanky as well. You can build as much lethality as you want. I feel like King is free to just be flexible, and it looks like another lethality item will be coming through. I imagine a Serrated Dirk is going to be built out of those. And eventually, it won't be the same late game threat that you see typical of Senna's that build the Kraken Slayer Ginsus, but you'll still have enough damage to deal with things like Harry and Jan. Even Jenkins, at a certain point, is just going to be vulnerable to all of the lethality that's going to be coming in from the AD carry.
Yeah, if you get enough souls, poke tends to work out. I feel like is the lesson I keep learning on Senna. So looking good so far. Frostfire Gauntlet for Darshan already done. So Mythic's almost finished across everyone. I imagine Neon has some more extra gold to spend. But did go for a pretty early Berserker's Greave, so it did invest a bit of extra money into the boots. It's going to help clear this Rift Herald though. And this is kind of like the I want to take objectives gun. The white one there, Crescendum out of Aphelios. And so Team Liquid going to get the second Herald unchecked as Cloud9 is going to have to give up yet another objective.
It's definitely going to turn into 2 objectives at the rate they're going, because these Rift Heralds have been dropped pretty effectively by Team Liquid Academy, so you have to feel like that's going topside, just because of the pressure Jenkins has been putting on, and the fact that Darshan really hasn't found an answer yet. He's completed his Frostfire Gauntlet, does have the Merc Treads as well, but that's not going to be enough to deal with the double threat if Armeo decides to journey on to that side of the map.
All right, well, minute 50 now until the Infernal Dragon is up. Team Liquid are on for the snowball as far as the Dragon Soul goes, and also just in general for the gold here. It is now 3,000 gold ahead. They still have that Rift Herald to drop to extend that lead maybe up to 4k. And of course, if they get anything else like that, get some kills, pick up some extra towers perhaps, if Cloud9 are a bit sloppy, then going to be off to a very good-looking mid-game here, where they should be able to piece together the win from that point. Team Liquid have been very efficient so far this season, and that is true in the Academy and the LCS for the most part. Although I am happy to report that Team Liquid Academy doing better than Team Liquid LCS right now.
The math checks out.
It does. Numbers do not lie.
Yes, we do see. One of the things that I've loved about this Team Liquid Academy squad is the fact that they always make a super long lane. They're always willing to put a lot of pressure early into the side lanes. At one of them, usually top more often than not, just to make sure that some laner on the other side has to answer and take as long as humanly possible in order to go forward. We're taking a look at the vision right now. Armeo, he's sneaking around like the scorpions we all know and love. We'll be looking towards this dragon spawn in about 40 seconds. And that's not going to leave a lot of time for the Rift Herald, which is about 1/3 of the way through its cooldown. Once that goes away, then That's just an objective that you gained and lost.
All right, well, 15 gold and a spire collected there for the Skarner. Gonna be zooming on through the river here. Team Liquid, though, again, not in any rush. This is a very well-disciplined team. Knowing they can pick their spots. Ooh, I like this, actually. Riftail dropped late into the river for a delayed push here. Oh, now getting shot. That's feels bad, man. But King not really doing too much damage to the Skarner, at least, who is very tanky. Riftail is trying to make its way to the tower. It's having some trouble. Skarner says, absolutely not! And now the damage is going to be down onto Isles, and that is going to be the support pick off. It does seem like maybe supports are getting themselves picked off. Not unlike Ayla in the last loss for TL, but Hook now going to come out. Oh, that was such a good looking angle. Jenkins going to force a flash out of Schönfire as a result. It's Team Liquid, they do want this dragon. Darshan ready with the ulti. If Team Liquid needs to turn, the ulti is down. Smite is good for Armeo. Let's get the dragon. And now could be problems here as Copy also rotating around. Darshan gets 2, I believe, in the front side. Jenkins going to force to get away. As now Copy does get the taunt. King able to take down Jenkins. Sion getting low as Harry trying to get the damage down. But the Kindred ulti is out to keep everybody alive. And King maybe has found the angle. Gets the 2-man route there. The damage is good as Darshan finds the shutdown. Make it a third as Harry falls down as Cloud9 finally fight back.
Is that it? Is that the signature Cloud9 Academy mid-game team fight? I think it was. You saw how much aggression they had once Team Liquid Academy had used all of their ultimates to get the initial pick. Isles goes down, yes, but that's a support. He already put down his damage, he did a little bit of CC, and bought time for the rest of the team to come in. From there, in the extended fight, a lot of it came down to Darshan's positioning as well as Copy getting amazing CC down in order to make that fight work out for them. Looking back at this, you can see the positioning of Darshan all the way forward, Copy on the opposite side. So there's not really anywhere to go. That Team Liquid Academy has been routed. The early pick comes through for King. And the 2 beefy boys in the front are just buying a million seconds of time. You can see Ayla also in trouble, and King perfectly safe in the back. I also like Isles speeding up in the end of that play, but Cloud9 Academy, after a devastating loss in the early game, they come back.
Yeah, Skarner ulti only good for 1 pick. The rest of Cloud9 good for 3. And so we kind of get a reverse, actually, of the first team fight trade that happened.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
C9 trying to kick Team Liquid out of the jungle. Oh, more suppression this time onto Schön. And it is going to be the Kindred falling down, but Isles fighting back. Ulti is not quite there. The combo into Ayla does miss, but the taunt is good for the follow-up, and that should be a trade kill. Surely as Ayla is going to go down, but Darshan in the middle of them all gets a massive knockup as King is just popping off. And C9 just walking slowly towards Team Liquid, getting pick after pick as Copy finds the retaunt in onto Jenkins. That's going to be King for the double kill there. Now 4-1 and 3 on the center. And all of a sudden, Cloud9, that's back-to-back teamfight wins, and it just looks so easy.
I mean, when you have a team that facilitates you that well, then yeah, King is going to look like a god every single time he goes into a team fight. You got the widest possible team that you can build around a Senna. You have 3 beefy boys and Kindred, who's going to make them even beefier as it goes along. So King, he stays at range, he's able to get the damage down, and there's not really a whole lot Team Liquid Academy can do other than maybe find a flank with Jenkins.
That's all just what I get, but their main damage source, Schönfire, dies instantly in this fight.
But that's what you think, Pastry. See, that's the deception of King. He makes them think, because the early Kraken Slayer build, that Schönfire is going to be doing all the damage, but King, he's just in the back, he is AoEing constantly, and doing so much damage while the CC pops down for Cloud9 Academy. We're still not at the point where the tanks don't do damage, so you see Darshan and Copy still getting a lot of work done, but as the game continues on, King is going to be the singular threat, and he is going to be untouched, as we've seen in the last 2 fights.
I guess that's always the other thing about the Galio mid, that it's been a long time now since the tank builds were there. Galio actually does do a decent amount of damage.
That's true.
And Darshan is just setting him up again. Gion going to be the target. Galio going in. The ulti out of Krakus maybe going to save him, but it's not going to, as Darshan is on a rampage, well earned, as they pick off the 4 TL80 carriers. Armeo gets himself in there, but I think that was a mistake. Senna ulti is going to give King the kill. There is Jenkins disguised as Armeo, but we know it's not the real Skarner. As the ulti out of Kindred is going to save the rest of Cloud9, and just can't be killed. Senna and Kindred, what are you supposed to do?
You keep thinking that there's one way to win this fight, and that's Armeo goes in, he gets the impale, they get the pick. But that's not going to work against this team. It's a 2-threat team. And if you count Copy, that's like a 2.5 count. threat team. You have so much to worry about against them between the CC and between the range, but the C9 has been able to build up. Cloud9 Academy, they found their strategy and they are executing it beautifully.
This team comp is actually sick. Like, the more fights and situations I see, the more I'm like, damn, this draft is sick. Like, they have 2 farming tanks, right? Both Sion and Gragas are allowed to farm in this game because they're playing fast in Senna. They have Senna. Senna's really good. Schoenfire is, like, making up for, like, some of the marksman damage that maybe Senna can't provide, especially with this kind of build. And Copy's, like, tying the room together, kind of protecting the frontliner. But they have heals out of Senna, and they have Kindred ulti as top of all these frontliners. Like, how are you supposed to kill anyone?
You aren't. And that's what Team Liquid Academy has found out. Once we've gotten out of laning phase, it's been virtually impossible for Team Liquid Academy to find the objectives that they need, to find more than a single pick, which is all that this draft has allowed them to do. As Darshan goes in.
They need a boost. They need Infernal Soul, but it's not looking like that's what they're going to get, because Darshan's already zooming in. Copley's already taken out Yeon Jenkins, trying to find the angle. Only gets 2, and it's the front line again. A Surefire doesn't even have his ulti. He doesn't need it. King's now unstoppable. He's picked up kill number 6. And Cloud9, they got the Baron, and they just run straight down and kill them a dragon.
Quick update on the King's soul count. 102 at 23 minutes in the game. That is a lot. The average should be around, I think, 70 or 80 at around this point. And King is blasting through that.
Well, 107. Picked up 2 more there around the Dragon Pit. One of the additional benefits of keeping Team Liquid off the Infernal Soul is Darshan is chasing Armeo because he, for some reason, is at the enemy Grump.
Shouldn't do that.
I don't think he's going to want to do that. Oh, how did he get out of there? Copy's still chasing him. The rocket belt goes in, but no more CC left, so Armeo will actually sneak on out and not need to use his flash. So good little bit of movement there to get away, but that is the end of the good news for Team Liquid right now, because they're still staring down this Baron. They didn't get the soul, and every team fight just seems like it's harder and harder to do anything in.
It's just such a squeeze coming in from Cloud9 Academy. Looking back at this last fight where Darshan initiated, it's all about the space he buys. He's so tanky, and even if he goes down, you gotta deal with a second health bar. There's too much for Team Liquid Academy to deal with, and they don't have the disengage necessary. Ayla's not enough, Copy's too much to deal with, and King, where even is he until he starts doing damage? You can't find him.
I mean, again, like, not really needed. Just kind of heals and slows people, throws out the ulti every now and then to keep people alive.
Yep.
And Darshan does all the work. This tank Sion is, like, so big. Even though they have 2 different marksmen that do a massive amount of, like, damage when left unchecked, they're just getting chased down. The carries can't free fire. And again, so early into this game with a fed Sion, now 4-0-7, Team Liquid just have so much trouble when Cloud9 throw the Sion at them, which is now every single time Darshan has his ulti off cooldown.
And unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough at this point. Team Liquid Academy, they have to defend at this point. Darshan is pushing in the top side. It's a 4-1 push so far. Baron's going to be up in about 3 minutes, dragging around the same time, and there's nothing but reactive play that can happen, and Cloud9 Academy, knowing this, set up the death push. It doesn't work. They did their best.
I mean, Team Liquid don't want to face check. They know they're not going to win when they can see the enemy team. They're definitely not going to win if they can't see the enemy team. So have to be careful. It's Cloud9. I mean, they just have so much control of the map, right? Team Liquid have to buckle down, play defensively, try and wait between objectives, and I mean, maybe have another shot at the soul in 2 minutes 45. The Baron doesn't look like it's going to end up getting an inhibitor tower, which is good news. That does mean Team Liquid can move out on the map again and actually contest for the next few objectives, but they're going to find some sort of angle. I mean, I think it's going to be a pick from Thresh or Skarner, or something like Jenkins having a really good flank onto these carries here. And the problem, I mean, after that, like, you have to kill a Kindred through center heals, the front line, and a QSS. Like, it's tough, but if you can find a pick onto Kindred or Senna cleanly, there are obviously ways for Team Liquid to win these fights. They still have 2 very good marksmen. They have potential here in these picks in team fights, but with the way Cloud9 have been playing and positioning, it just feels so challenging to beat this draft.
Especially when all the summoner spells are up. You saw Isles, he still has his teleport, which, by the way, he took teleport as a support. That's awesome. And also Darshan with the teleport plus Galio ult. You can't get a single clean pick. It's just not going to happen against Cloud9 Academy. They have the ability to collapse. The only hope Team Liquid Academy have is to bait out all of the globals first, and then hopefully get the pick onto one of the carries. And ideally it's Schernfire, just so it gets a little bit faster. He has been caught out more often than many of the members of Team Liquid Academy, but that doesn't guarantee a win. That doesn't even guarantee you an objective at this stage in the game. Cloud9 Academy have shown that they know how to play around it, but if they lose all of their globals, then maybe, just maybe, Team Liquid Academy have a way back into this game.
And it's funny, I was about to ask the question, like, how often... Oh, never mind, we'll have to wait there, as Darshan has just found the wrong Jenkins. King flashes the C9 icon. I mean, you know what? Darshan's ulti at this point, not all that long of a cooldown. Not quite rank 3, but must be close there as he's level 15. And Cloud9 is happy to, again, take control of the mid lane, push it all the way back, and set up for this dragon in 50 seconds. They do at least need to keep Team Liquid honest and off of this Infernal Soul, because we talk about them needing damage to chew through this front line. Infernal Soul goes a long way into helping you there.
But at the same time, the damage types that you need in order to get through that front line, you could see Darshan's build right now. He's got the Frostfire, he's got the Randuin's, and he's got a Thornmail. How do you break through that if your primary damage sources are Hayri on Tristana and Yan on Aphelios? It's just so difficult to ever bring this guy in. Oh, the
Mail going in, looking for King. That's the target they want, but King kiting back very nicely, and now they're going to get the suppression, but that's just not enough. The rest of the team can't come in, and now the fight is coming back through center. Ulti committed there as King is now dominating. Going to get 2 more kills as Schernfire grabs the 3rd overall. And somehow Cloud9 completely zoned out the rest of Team Liquid Academy and just left Armeo to the wolves. I mean, Yeon is like free-firing crescendos into Darshan, and I'm pretty sure he's healing.
There's actually 0 damage being done right now as Darshan continues to push forward. I mean, look how many he has. That was at least 12 crescendo stacks going on, but it doesn't matter. Darshan is an anti-AD carry right now.
That is amazing, and now C9 just going to push him for the victory. That's all they needed. Don't even need to get this other dragon off the board. Don't need a second Baron, just need the enemy Nexus. Darshan not going to die because Kindred ulti flies up high, and the Nexus is going to fall because Kindred ulti doesn't care about that one, as Cloud9 will finish the regular season in 1st place here in Academy. What a fun game. What a great draft from Cloud9 Academy.
It's just definitely playing to their style. Lose lane, win game. It's been that way since the old days of Cloud9 Academy when they had Blabber and Kumo on the roster. They've continued that. I have to imagine West Rice is a large part of their playstyle, but it's something that persists despite the rosters, and that's something that I've always appreciated about this team is the fact that they are willing to foster the new talent, and they still find success despite whoever they have on their team.
All right, well, I mean, Cloud9 back-to-back wins last year, looking like they want to take the new player format, right, Proving Grounds, and come in strong, and they will indeed as the #1 seed out of Academy. Team Liquid Academy, I think, obviously will be disappointed to not finish the season at first, given how strong they started, and of course, wanted to beat the best teams, Cloud9 Academy. We'll call them the best team because they finished first, but it doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things in a single round robin. But I still think played a pretty good game. I wonder if they just, like, kind of got Scioned in the end there, because as you pointed out, I was like, yeah, that's true. That is really hard to kill that Scion. But I think there were ways around that draft, especially with the advantages Team Liquid were getting. I just think Cloud9 maybe executed a little bit better in some of those earlier mid-game skirmishes.
I mean, Team Liquid Academy definitely had a plan going through. They executed that plan pretty well in the first 5-10 minutes of the game. They were able to win lanes. They were able to find the picks that they needed. Unfortunately, they ran out of gas just as a composition. There was nothing that they could do to beat the Fed Scion that Cloud9 Academy had poured resources into. And then there was actually no way to get King, who, despite not having the TK, was still fairly safe with all the bodyguards that she had around her. And even though Kindred might have been caught out a couple times, Schernfire still provided so much utility to the team. It just felt like all these things compounded on a Team Liquid Academy, who, although they played well in the beginning, couldn't surmount the absolute mountain of advantages that Cloud9 Academy had drafted.
I mean, that's kind of the thing to me about Kindred, right? And one of the reasons that, you know, Blabber, as an example, like loves to play her because he can just afford to be like needlessly aggressive and still get away with things by popping the ulti. Like Shern is that kind of player. He's hyper aggressive. Kindred definitely a champion that suits him, and I'm sure Blabber's thrown him a few tips in his spare time as well. But like, I would hope that if Schernfire was playing a different champion, he wouldn't going quite as recklessly, but kind of knew his limits and knew his team would be behind him to back him up. And Cloud9 just like really understanding what that draft wanted to do and executing when they needed to, despite the setbacks early on, with Jenkins finding that great early Nico engage and Team Liquid looking like they were going to actually snowball real quick stall and take the game over. Not the story of that game. I think if you'd like frozen the game when Team Liquid had 3 dragons and shown someone the score and asked them to guess who won, I think most people, myself included, would have said Team Liquid.
But then you remember how Cloud9 Academy loves to play. It's always the 18 to 24 minute team fight. That one team fight will just set them over the edge, and for whatever reason, their comp will come online, and or Darshan split pushes and wins the game, as we saw in one instance. But with this team comp, it just felt like this is what they wanted to do from the beginning. All according to plan.
Certainly is. Well, we are going to take a step away, but I believe we have an interview coming up after this game, so don't go too far away. Our final game and an interview is coming up right after this.